Okay, let's dive right into this. Welcome to today's Explainer, where we're tackling a critical but honestly incredibly overlooked process for business owners, officially closing down a New Jersey limited liability company. You know, we spend so much time obsessing over how to start a business, but figuring out how to properly dissolve one? That is absolutely vital to protecting your financial future.
So what actually happens when your LLC stops operating? You might think that, well, once the website goes dark, the bank account hits zero, and you stop taking on clients, the business is closed, right? Actually, no. That is a massive misconception. If you simply stop operations and walk away, you haven't closed your business. You've just created what we call a zombie business. It might be dead in practice, but in the eyes of the state of New Jersey, it is very much alive.
And let me tell you, keeping a zombie business alive is expensive. There's this crazy real-world story from our source material about a founder who totally closed her consulting practice. Or, well, she thought she did. 2 full years after she supposedly shut her doors, she got slapped with notices from the state for over $600 in unpaid annual report fees and late penalties. It's wild. The state literally doesn't care if your revenue is zero. If you haven't filed the legal paperwork to shut it down, that meter is still running.
Now, I know the legal jargon around this stuff can feel pretty dense, but don't worry, this explainer is going to give you a straightforward 6-part roadmap to achieve a legally clean break. We'll cover 1. The dissolution decision, 2. Winding up business affairs, 3. Taxes, creditors, and notices, 4. Filing the certificate, 5. Common challenges and solutions, and finally, 6. Final steps and resources.
All right, let's start with Phase 1, the dissolution decision.
A business closure doesn't actually begin with the state. It begins internally. In New Jersey, this whole process is governed by the revised Uniform Limited Liability Company Act, or RULCA. The very first thing you've got to look at is your LLC's operating agreement. Think of this as your company's internal constitution. Now, if you have a single-member LLC, you have it pretty easy. There's no formal vote required to dissolve, but you absolutely should still document the decision in writing just for your records. On the flip side, for a multi-member LLC, you have to follow the specific dissolution rules laid out in that operating agreement. Usually this means holding a formal meeting and hitting a specific voting threshold, like a majority or even a unanimous vote. And if you never drafted an operating agreement, well, New Jersey's default law kicks in, which requires a simple majority vote. Whatever your situation is, document everything. Keep meeting minutes, draft written resolutions. You want to do this to prevent any ugly disputes from popping up down the road.
Moving right along to Phase 2. Winding up business affairs.
Now, what's really interesting about this phase is that it's kind of the messy middle of the dissolution process. Winding up is a very specific legal term under New Jersey Statute 42:2C-49. The moment you voted to dissolve, your LLC officially enters this phase. The company still legally exists, but only for the strict purpose of closing out its affairs. Here is the absolutely crucial part. Conducting any new, standard business during this time, like taking on a new client or signing a new long-term lease, is actually illegal. Your one and only job now is to shut things down.
And there is a strict, legally mandated order of operations during this winding up phase. First, you liquidate your assets. Second, you settle your debts with your creditors. Third, and strictly third, do you distribute any remaining assets to the LLC members based on their ownership percentages. Creditors always take priority. You absolutely cannot pay yourselves out and leave your vendors holding the bag. Doing that will pierce your liability protection faster than just about anything else.
Which brings us to Phase 3. Taxes, creditors, and notices.
So, while New Jersey doesn't strictly force you to notify creditors in the exact same way some other states do, creating a formal timeline is a massive defensive move on your part. By sending out written notices to known creditors or even publishing a notice in a local newspaper with a specific deadline, usually giving them about 30 days to file any objections or claims, you are officially closing the window on them. If you skip this step, a creditor could literally pop up years later with a claim. Setting up this timeline protects you, the founder, from those horrible surprise lawsuits down the road.
And here's a major point of confusion we definitely need to clear up regarding taxes. A lot of business owners panic because they think they have to go through this super lengthy process of getting a tax clearance certificate. Good news, for most standard pass-through LLCs in New Jersey, you do not need this certificate to dissolve. That's usually a requirement for corporations. However, and this is a big however, you absolutely must file your final state and federal tax returns. For New Jersey, that means filing forms like the NJ 1065 if you're a partnership or the NJ 1040RN for non-residents.
The key takeaway? You have to make sure you check the box marked Final Return so the Division of Taxation actually knows to close your accounts. Next up is Phase 4, filing the certificate. This is where we officially cure that zonky business problem by notifying the state. But before you go and submit Form L-109, you have to bypass the biggest roadblock of all. Your business has to be in good standing. The Division of Revenue will outright reject your cancellation if you have any missing annual reports or unpaid state fees. You'll need your 10-digit entity number and formation date just to log into the state portal. So if you've been, sort of ignoring those annual reports, you've got to file them and pay all the associated fees to get back into good standing before they'll even let you officially leave.
Let's break down the exact out-of-pocket cost for this paperwork. The standard filing fee for Form L-109 is a flat $100 for a domestic LLC. If you decide to pay online with a credit card, there's a tiny $3 processing fee. If you're in a massive hurry, you can actually file over the counter in Trenton for an extra $25 expedited fee, which gets it done in about 8.5 business hours. But honestly, for most people, just using the online business endings and cancellation service is going to be the absolute fastest and easiest path.
Let's look at Phase 5, Common Challenges and Solutions.
So the crucial point here is that taking shortcuts through this process can lead to some truly serious consequences. Just let this quote from business expert John Morgan sink in for a second. Failing to properly dissolve your New Jersey LLC can lead to significant legal repercussions, such as being personally held responsible for the company's remaining debts. Think about that. If the state administratively revokes your LLC just because you stopped paying your annual fees, you completely lose your liability shield. Creditors and the state can pierce the corporate veil. That means a judge can issue a certificate of debt that attaches directly to you personally. Your personal bank accounts, your personal assets, they literally become fair game. No way around it.
Another massive hurdle is when business partners simply cannot agree. If you're completely deadlocked and the business is failing, New Jersey law actually allows for something called judicial dissolution. Under NJSA 42-2C-48, a member can petition the Superior Court to step in. If a judge looks at the situation and decides it's not reasonably practicable for the business to continue, maybe because of bad faith, some sort of misconduct, or just total unresolvable gridlock, the court will forcefully dissolve the LLC. They'll even appoint an independent receiver to wind up all the affairs. It's expensive and it's incredibly stressful, but it's a really vital legal safety valve when things go completely wrong.
Finally, we arrive at Phase 6, Final Steps and Resources.
Even if the state has accepted your paperwork, you aren't completely done just yet. And this brilliantly illustrates the timeline. On day 1, your certificate is filed. Over the next few weeks, the state updates its databases to finally show the entity is terminated. But look right there at the 1-year mark. In New Jersey, once you voluntarily cancel an LLC, your business name is only legally protected for 1 single year after that cancellation date. Once that 1 year is up, the name goes right back into the public pool, meaning anyone else can swoop in and register a business using it. To totally wrap this whole shebang up, let's run through a rapid-fire final checklist. First, draft a letter of instruction to your bank to formally close all of your business bank accounts. Next, reach out to your local township or county agencies to cancel any municipal permits or health licenses you might hold. This is a big one. Be sure to preserve all your financial records and tax filings for at least 7 years, just in case of an audit. And hey, if this whole process feels completely overwhelming, or if you're dealing with partner disputes, please don't just guess. Utilize external platforms like StarCycle for structured closure services, or jump on UpCounsel to find a qualified business attorney so you don't miss any critical details.
As we wrap things up today, please note this quick disclaimer. This explainer is designed to be a highly educational and comprehensive guide, but it is not, I repeat, not, a substitute for direct legal or financial counsel. Every single business is unique, so please always consult a professional regarding your specific circumstances.
I want to leave you with one final provocative thought to reflect on. If you walked away from a business venture recently without filing the proper paperwork, is your dormant LLC secretly acting as a ticking time bomb of fees and personal liability? Seriously, don't let a zombie business haunt your future. Use the structured roadmap, get compliant, and close it out the right way. Thanks so much for joining me in this explainer, and I'll catch you on the next one.